Hi. Hi, guys. Thanks for coming out today. We were expecting 14 people, so I'm a little surprised there's only two, but thank you for coming. I'm Michelle Rogers. I'm a content editor at the Record Searchlight, and this is Sean Longoria. He's our presenter today. He's a senior multimedia journalist at the Record Searchlight, and this is part of the 530 Media Project, and if you haven't heard about the 530 Media Project before, it's something the Record Searchlight launched about a year ago in partnership with Pacific Sky Marketing, and now also in coordination with the Shasta County Arts Council. We provide workshops to the community on a variety of digital tools, storytelling tools, and social media. And we're also looking for more ideas. So if you have something that you want to learn about, let us know. We can try and find an expert and line them up as a speaker. So thanks for coming.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. As Michelle said, I'm Sean Longoria. I'm a senior multimedia journalist for the Record Searchlight. That means a lot of things, but one of the things I do is I help reporters and editors figure out all these digital tools, and audio is one of them. Audio has been a big medium for pretty much since recording became a technology that people can use, and audio for news has grown over the past decade, and it continues to grow. So we're going to dive into some basic stuff on how you record audio, how you get audio together, and how you put audio into the world for people to consume. So I've got a presentation here, and I have some hands-on stuff that I'll be guiding you through that's also in the presentation. If you're following along at home or here live, you can advance to the next slide either by clicking on your mouse or using the N button on your keyboard. And to go back, all you need to do is touch the P button on your keyboard. So, without any further ado, let's dive right in. So why would you even want to record audio? Lots of reasons. Some of them would be you want to make a podcast. Now, what a podcast is, think of it like an on-demand radio program that you can download and listen to whenever you want to. Podcasting, yes?
Since you have a different window than I do, should I have pushed N to go forward?
Yes, yes. If you see the slide change over, click N on your keyboard, you'll be on the same slide as I am, generally. So back to podcasting. Podcasting in some form or another has existed for well over a decade. And as I said, what a podcast is, it's kind of like an on-demand radio program that you can download and listen to whenever you want. You can download it on your computer. If you have a smartphone, they all have apps either built in or apps you can download that will get podcasts for you. Some of these shows are radio programs that they just make available for download. NPR does that with Fresh Air, This American Life, a number of its other programs. Some of them are original programs. And what we've seen lately in the podcasting world is companies becoming exclusive podcast companies where all they do is produce podcasts, put them on the internets for people to download. They don't even bother with radio at all. Most of the time, podcasts are free. There are some subscription services, but they're ad-supported. Another big one, which audio has been around for since its inception, is music. If you write and perform music, you might want to record it and put it out into the world for people to download, maybe make a little money off of it. And if you're a video producer, you can also do voiceover. I've done voiceover on a lot of videos that I've done, and it can add an extra layer of polish, or if the narrative of your video isn't obvious from the video itself, you can add a voiceover and add that extra narrative that tells the story. So when you record some audio, you have lots and lots of options. One method you can use is your computer. The program I'll walk you through today, called Audacity, it has a built-in recording function. So if you have microphones hooked into your computer, you can record using that. You can use your smartphone if you have a smartphone. On an iPhone, you have an app called Voice Memos. That lets you simply just record audio. And you can record pretty much as long as you have storage on your phone. I use this for interviews out in the field, so I'll just set my phone down between myself and the person I'm interviewing, touch record, That way I don't have to take notes, and I have a nice audio file that I can listen back to and capture exactly what that person said in the context they said it. There's also specialized digital recorders. You can even use your iPad if you have an iPad or a similar tablet. So you have lots of options when recording. For the purposes of this demonstration, it's better to use a digital device, and if you're working with Audacity on your own, which I recommend you do, go home and practice if this is something you're serious about. Use something that will give you a digital file. Don't record to tape. Yeah, don't use tape, anything that will give you anything other than a digital file, because Audacity will only work with a file that you can put on your computer. And everything you record on your phone, your computer, or any other kind of digital voice recorder, that will give you that. So when it comes to editing, which is what the bulk of what I'll be talking about today, there are a ton of options, actually. I only put 2 up here because these are the 2 that you can get for free depending on which kind of computer you have. If you have a newer Mac, you can download GarageBand in its entirety, or most of its entirety, for no cost. If you have an older Mac, this might cost you $50 or $100. I don't know exactly. GarageBand does quite a few things. There is a learning curve to it. One that I recommend, and one that we'll be working with today, is called Audacity. Audacity is a very simple to use program, lets you edit, lets you record, lets you create files out of any audio you put into it, with some exception that we'll get into. But it's free, it's on Windows, it's on Mac. You can download it for free and use it to your heart's content. Now, once you get through editing the audio, and we'll cover that in more detail in a little bit, you've got lots of options on where you put that audio when you're done. There are many, many more channels than what I listed here. These are just some of the most popular ones. SoundCloud is probably one of the biggest names in people just creating audio, music, podcasts, and putting it out into the world. It's very popular. They have something like 125 million songs on their platform, which is more than most any other streaming services you will find, like a Spotify or a radio or anything like that. It is free, but only to an extent. If you have a free account, you can upload 3 hours total of audio, and that's separate clips totaling 3 hours or less. Then you have to pay either a monthly or an annual subscription to upload more. Another service that's exclusive for podcasting is called Libsyn. They do a lot for you. They will create a web page and manage it for you. RSS is a type of feed that your podcast player can pull, so it will get the new episodes as they appear, so you don't have to go seek them out. And if you pay enough for it, they will even make a smartphone app for you that will give people exclusive access to your podcasts. This is only a paid subscription option, so if you're not really serious about this podcasting thing, maybe don't start with them. Podbean is another podcast hosting service, very similar to Libsyn. There are limited free options, and there are also paid options, and the more you pay, just like anything, the more you get. Another place you can think about putting audio, which is kind of counterintuitive, is YouTube. YouTube will let you upload as many videos as you want for free. The caveat there is they have to be videos. So if you download an audio file, bring it into a video editor, and just put an image instead of a video, you can think of that as a free place to upload all of your audio. And as I said, there are many, many, many other channels. If you have a website, like a WordPress or a Squarespace website, and you pay for it, you get some storage space where you can put your audio, and there will be built-in audio players that people can just plug into, go to your site, and listen to the audio. And just some general tips for when you do the recording and editing. Use a microphone for whatever device you use. If you record onto a computer, you pretty much have to use a microphone. Some laptops, well actually most modern laptops come with built-in microphones, but the more you can use an external microphone, the better. You saw Michelle holding this microphone up at the very beginning. We are recording this and live streaming it to Reading.com right now, but the microphone on the iPad, the one that's built in, is not ideal for capturing audio from someone as far away as she was standing from the iPad. So we just plugged in an external microphone. I'm wearing another kind of microphone right now called a lapel mic. It's just hooked up by a wire to a little transmitter that's transmitting to the receiver plugged into the iPad. So when we're talking about microphones, there are tons and tons of options, and really it depends on what you're recording that will determine the kind of microphone you use, and to a greater extent what you can afford too, because microphones can get expensive. However, there are some affordable options if it's something you want to invest in. When you're recording in general, you want to give yourself some space after you hit the record button. That way you make sure you capture everything. So for example, if I just hit record right now, I'd want to wait just that gap of silence. And that just makes sure you pick up everything that you're saying, everything that your subject is saying, so you don't start your audio in the middle of a sentence. Same principle applies at the very end of your recording. Before you hit stop and you're sure someone's done talking, leave just a beat or two of silence. That way you can have that room to make sure you captured everything, and maybe add an effects like a fade out or a fade into some type of other clip that you've captured. Just make sure you have a few beats of silence at the end of your recording before it completely ends. Now if you feel like you're going to be editing a lot, leave 1 to 2 seconds of silence in between questions or takes if you're recording something by yourself and want to do multiple takes. This just makes it easier to find what you want to cut, what you want to keep. Most of the audio programs, including the ones we'll go over today, they show you the waveforms of your audio. That's little lines that go up and down and up and down and up and down. And that correlates to what kind of sound is coming through. So when you see that, and we'll see it on the demonstration, the silence will just be a flat line, so it will be very easy and it will stand out against people actually talking. Now when you're editing, and this first point applies only to if you're working with Audacity on Windows, which we are. If you record on your iPhone, you have to change the file that your iPhone records to an MP3. If you have iTunes, this is very, very easy. Just plug your phone into your computer, move the file into iTunes, and create an MP3 version. We won't have to do this today, but there's a link on how to do that quickly if you have an iPhone and are using that to record, but using a Windows computer to edit. And the reason is iPhones record in a very specific file type, and Audacity on Windows does not work with that file type.
Yeah, I have that issue, so you're saying, if I understand that in order to do that, I need to look it up online?
There's a link right here in the presentation that'll take you to just exactly how to do that.
Oh, on the net?
Yeah,
The one that says-
right here. So when you're looking at this at home, just click this link right here. It'll bring up the steps on how you need to do that.
Okay.
And usually it's just as simple as plugging in your iPhone, finding the file, copying it over. Then all you have to do is right-click the file and there should be an option. But it'll guide you through the specifics on that.
And I was just going to say the presentation is on our blog, the 530 Media Project blog, posted on Reading.com, or you can request that I email it to you on the form that I left on the desk.
So the next tip when you're editing is always save any editing work you do as a new file. The reason you want to do this is that if you don't save it as a new file, it will overwrite your original audio, and you want to keep that intact as much as possible in case you wind up doing something that totally messes up your clip and want to start over from scratch. So always save any edits as a new file. In most audio programs, this is the default, and it's not necessarily saving the audio, it's exporting it to something else, but I'll walk you through that during our demonstration. And always, this is a good tip for audio editing, but if you're working with any kind of media in general, back up your data. What that means is make sure you have a spare copy of whatever you're doing. And there are many, many ways you can do this. Save it to 2 different spots on your computer. Save it to the cloud. You can use Dropbox, Google Drive. Michelle teaches a course on Google Drive. You could take that and learn how to use it. But make sure you have an extra copy is all back up your data means. Any questions at this point before we dive into the hands-on? All right. So we're going to get started with Audacity. I adapted these steps from a guide I found online, the LNS LSS Quick Guide to Audacity. This was from a college, and there's the attributed information that we had to include. So, what I want you all to do on your computers, I'm going to sit down. Michelle, can you still see me if I sit down? Cool. So, hit the escape key. And then if the window is full screen, just click the minimize button. And you want to look for the Audacity program. It's a pair of headphones over what looks like a yellow waveform. The logo looks a lot like that, if you can see that. Everyone find that okay? Or has anyone not found that? So you'll probably see this pop-up window at the beginning that says Audacity, how to get help. You can just click OK there. And right next to the close button, there's that square button to maximize. Go ahead and do that. Yeah. Okay. So minimize Chrome. Oops, the other one, the little line there at the bottom. And go ahead and dive into Audacity. Double click that. And press OK. And now maximize, which is the square next to the close button. There you go. All right, so what you're looking at now, does anyone see something different than what I have up here? All right, let's just make sure everyone's caught up. There you go. Yeah, you can close that out and now maximize the window. Perfect. All right, so before we dive in, I'm just going to take you on a quick little tour of what we have here. Just like any program, you've got your file, edit, view, and some specific menus up at the top. You've got your recording tools. As I said, Audacity does allow you to record. That's the red circle button. You've got a number of tools here, a selection tool, an envelop tool, a draw tool, many tools, and I'll go over exactly what most of these are as we proceed. This big, darker gray space, this is where you'll see your audio tracks when we pull those in. You can work with multi-track audio. Multi-track audio just means you have more than one audio clip stacked on top of each other. And that's useful if you've got, let's say you want to record a show and you have some intro music, or you have different segments that you want to work with and make sure they all blend and fade in together. It might be useful for you to see those stacked on top of each other rather than in one straight line. So if you can open up Chrome again, you'll kind of see the overview. Make sure you're on the presentation. You've got the layout of all your buttons. These would be the buttons that are in the top right up here. They might be in slightly different order, but they might not be as well. So again, you have your selection tool. It's used to select, cut, paste, and delete waveforms. Magnification tool. You can use this to zoom in and out. By default, when you drag in a clip, and this will become more apparent when we actually do it, you're limited to seeing a certain section of that clip on the timeline, but if you want to dial down and get more detailed, you can do that. Headphone volume and microphone volume, those come in handy when you're recording, or if you have headphones plugged in. And of course, you got the play, record, pause, and stop button. Those all come in handy when you're playing back or recording files. So when you work with audio on the timeline, this is what I was talking about earlier with those waveforms. You see the peaks here. This is when things are noisy, when audio is actually happening.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Mine came back as a small screen.
Okay.
Doesn't look like I
Sure.
need to maximize it.
Right. So just go ahead and click this little
this
expand
one right
button. Yeah. Or you can just use the arrow to move to the next slide. Depends on whether you want to see it bigger or not.
I need to see it bigger.
There you go. So what we're looking at right now is an example of multi-track audio. One's in stereo, one's in mono. Stereo means you've got a left and a right, and you're working with both at the same time. They both capture the same thing. Not necessarily the same thing. Mono means you've got a single audio track to work with. So you can see there the peaks, that's when noise is actually happening, and these flat lines, that's when things are quiet. So to select an audio clip, and we'll run through this all too, you make sure you're on the selection tool, which is, if you're back in Audacity, this little cursor right here. Make sure you choose that. Click the play button to listen to your recording. Figure out which part of your recording you want to modify. Click stop or pause when you get to that clip you want to modify. And just like you would if you're editing an email or a Word document or something, highlight what you want to change. After you do that, you've got a couple options. You can delete if you found something you want to get rid of. All you have to do is press the delete key. You can silence that. There's a button there that says silence. It's right up here. And it looks like waveforms on either side of a flat line. And to trim or keep a section of audio, this will wipe out everything but what you've selected. You click the trim tool, and that looks like a waveform surrounded by two flat lines. Zooming in and out, and why you'd want to do it. Zooming in and out is one of the most useful things you can do when you're editing audio. As I said, when you first drag a clip into Audacity, it shows you a certain percentage of that clip by default. So if you, for instance, have a 2-hour interview, Audacity might show you the whole 2 hours, but let's say you wanted to cut out 20 seconds of dead air somewhere in that. You'd need to zoom in and find that in order to see it in the waveform. And I'll show you what this looks like when we get into the demo. But anyway, you have your zoom in, zoom out, zoom to selection. Zoom to selection will give you a close-up of anything you select using the select tool that we just covered. Zoom to entire project will show you the full length of whatever audio you have on the timeline. All right, so we're ready to do some hands-on. Any questions at this point? What I just covered about working with Audacity we'll go over in more detail as we do the hands-on, but anyone have any questions I can answer for you at this point? All right. So in the presentation, if you still have that open, there's a link to follow. Click that link. It will give you this pop-up. What we're going to is Dropbox, where I've given a file for us to work in. Just go ahead and close that little pop-up that asks for your name and an email and a password. And in the top right, there's a blue download button. Go ahead and click that, and it will probably pop up a little dialog that says direct download or save to my Dropbox. We want to pick direct download. Anyone having trouble reaching that point, or is everyone good to go so far? All right. So go ahead and open Audacity again. Then go to the Start menu on your computer. And what we want to look for is the Downloads folder. And we want to drag that MP3, it's called Audio Basics, from that folder right into Audacity.
Is that under Documents?
You can find it under Documents. Once you open Documents, you should see options on the right-hand side of that window, and there should be one that says Downloads. And I can show you that specifically. Yes.
Okay, so just drag it into,
Yep. Just drag it right into Audacity.
and then close that.
Yeah, so if you want to go to the Start menu there at the bottom,
I think I don't know computer well enough to.
we'll make you a pro. So go ahead and go to Documents right here. Then click on Downloads right here. Oh, we haven't downloaded that yet. Okay, go back into Chrome down here, please. And scroll down a little bit, please. Okay, click the arrows.
This?
Yep. Click again. Keep going. Keep going. Okay. Keep going, I think. Okay, so scroll back up a little bit. Now click that blue link, the one that says here. Oh, nope. Click the back arrow again. The word here. Now close that out. Click the blue download button. Direct to download, the first option. Okay, now click on this folder. Oh, actually, first click on the Audacity icon. Now click on that folder. Now click and drag that file right into this gray space here. And you can close this window on top here. All right, so we've dragged a clip into Audacity. So you can see it here. We've got some silent parts. These are these flat lines, and we've got some loud parts. If you've brought headphones, now's a good time to plug them in. If not, we'll see if the speakers work, and I'll play you a little sample clip of the audio. This is an interview I did with Michelle a few days ago. Just some fun minute and a half for us all to work with.
Hello, hello. I am sitting here with Michelle Rogers, content editor for the Record Searchlight. Did I get that right? That's correct. She's nodding at me. You can probably hear that a little bit. Michelle, describe in as great a detail as you'd like what a content editor is and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
I think the title is unique to each property, and for here, I edit the features content. I do social media, so I'm posting on our branded accounts on Facebook and Twitter, and we have Pinterest and Instagram. And then I also do community engagement, and that's where the 530 Media Project comes into play. So not only am I organizing classes, setting them up, finding presenters, presenting myself, and creating PowerPoints, but I'm promoting it and that kind of thing. So that's what a content editor at the Record Searchlight does.
Very good, thank you. Now I have a super important question for you. Can you do any accents, and if so, will you please do them now?
I cannot. You're going to have to ask Amber to do that.
Very good. All right. I think we'll end that there. Thank you, Michelle. Is there anything else you would like to say to people who will be editing this sound clip?
Good luck.
All right, thanks for listening.
So that's a quick minute and a half we recorded on the fly. If you wanted to play this clip, all you do is click the play button again.
Hello?
You can pause at any moment, or you can click stop. That'll take you right back to the beginning.
Excuse me.
Yes.
So, did you do this on an iPhone or what?
I did this on an iPhone. I plugged in a microphone to this. So what you can see here, and you can't see this at home, but folks here will get the benefit, have a little wireless microphone and a receiver. This can plug straight into an iPhone, and I just used this microphone, passed it between Michelle and I. Hold this in front of the camera for anyone. Here's the receiver.
And then you emailed the file to a computer?
Just myself, downloaded the attachment from the email,
Okay, into the audio,
Mhm.
okay, thank you.
and then I put it in a place you all could get it, so be able to download and work with it. You don't necessarily need a microphone for the iPhone, but as I said earlier, it will always sound better if you have a microphone. A decent microphone, anyway. All right. So we've listened to the clip in its entirety. Now we're going to get rid of that little bit of silence at the very beginning. You can see that if you're working with it by this little flat line right at the beginning. So what I'd like you all to do is make sure you have the selection tool highlighted, and it should look like a button that's pressed in. And you can tell if you see that little cursor that looks like a capital letter I when you're hovering over the audio. So what I'd like you to do is select that first part, that first little bit of silence, and it should highlight in a darker color gray. Once you have that highlighted, just push the delete key on your computer and watch that disappear.
Oh, okay, you,
Is that the red one?
The delete key on your keyboard is the delete key.
don't I want, it keeps giving me hands that are pointing in two different directions.
Do you have the clip highlighted?
Okay, so first you highlight the clip,
Yep.
then you click this.
You're already selected on,
I
you
did,
already
I
have the selection
selected
tool. Then highlight the first bit of silence. There you go. That's enough, really. I just want to make sure you can delete it.
And then
So,
just delete it.
yeah, touch the delete key on your keyboard. And that disappeared. Everyone to this point where they were able to delete some part of it?
I actually just have a question though, because
Sure.
mine seemed like it was automatically on the selection tool, so I was
It
able to
should
delete
be.
it. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't, where would I
So
go to
let's
do
say, for
that?
example, a different tool is pushed in. All you need to do is just click
That's
that.
the select tool. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
So for all of you actually, the selection tool was the tool that Audacity defaults to. But if you had a different one selected, all you need to do is click the selection tool up in the toolbar, and then you're using it. So the next thing we're going to do is get rid of the second question I asked, which was if Michelle could do any accents and what were they. So I've highlighted the section of audio in your presentation that you actually need to select and delete. But if you wanted to find that again, you can click anywhere in the timeline with your selection tool to start playing from there.
On our branded accounts on Facebook and Twitter.
So if I were to say click over here, you see that horizontal line come in. If I touch play,
and
it will start playing from that
creating,
point.
Power
So we're just going to find that again.
and creating PowerPoints, but I'm promoting it, that kind of thing. So that's what a content editor at the Record Searchlight does.
Very good, thank you.
So I'm going to go all the way back to when the first time I say very good, thank you, which is where we're at right now.
And creating,
Oops.
creating.
So we're right here.
Very good, thank you. Now I have a super important question for you. Can you do any accents, and if so, will you please do them now?
I cannot. You're going to have to ask Amber to do that.
So I want to get rid of that whole section of audio. So what we're going to do So highlight that whole bit. And if you're following along on your computer, this starts at just after the minute mark. You see that little, you see the numbers across the top. Those are the number of seconds that have passed. Once you get to a minute, it tells you a minute and how many seconds. And we want to go right about to the 1 minute 15 second mark. Highlight that, and when you've highlighted it, we want to delete it.
What it does when I highlight it is start playing it, so just hit stop.
Yeah. All right. So you want to make sure before you highlight it that you've clicked stop. So make sure you click that yellow stop key up along the play, next to the play button before you delete it. And once again, we're at just after the minute mark and all the way to about 1 minute and 15 seconds.
And then you hit delete.
Yeah, after you've highlighted it, just touch delete on your keyboard, and you should see that clip disappear.
It's funny, it's like I hit the selection tool, and so I hit the selection tool.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see I have
Right.
the selection tool. And there's a line here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to here and highlighted it
Mm-hmm.
as best I can. And then
Okay,
it starts playing it.
so click stop.
Why are you playing it?
Make sure you do that in the waveform section, not across the top. Because you were doing it up where the numbers are, we want to do it where the actual audio is.
Okay, so I click here,
Mm-hmm.
and then I come over like wherever it was.
Yeah,
and
it's
here.
right before these two peaks right here is where you want to go.
And then go, oh, okay.
Yeah, and right about there. Then you can click delete, and there you go.
Thank you.
Anyone having trouble getting to this point? You guys are doing great. What we've just walked through is probably 90 to 95% of anything you'd ever want to do when you're working with audio, is just trimming that stuff that doesn't belong.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Quick question. So let's say I take a video on my camera,
Mm-hmm.
not my phone, my camera, and it's not a Wi-Fi or anything. How can I move that? Can I move that video to my computer and do the same editing as we're doing here?
You should be able to. It depends on a lot of things. The camera you have, what kind of memory your camera has. If it has a little card and you have the corresponding card reader on your computer, it should work just fine. If you have editing programs, most of those will let you just export the audio from your video. So if you took a video that sounded great, but for some reason you weren't crazy about what the video was actually showing, like let's say you took an interview with a person, just standing in front of a person, filming them as they were talking, and you didn't want to post the video for some reason. Let's say, I don't know, they looked disheveled or they were scowling at you the whole time and you just wanted to post the audio. If you have a video editing program, and it again depends on what kind of computer you have and what you have on your computer, most of those will allow you to just put out an audio file instead of a full video. So as I said, trimming, editing clips, deleting dead air, silly questions, silly answers, things you don't want in your audio, that's mostly what you do when you're editing audio clips, or at least it's mostly what I do when I edit audio clips. It's just taking out the stuff that doesn't belong and making sure you have a nice file. So what we've done so far is cut out the little bit of dead air at the beginning and cut out the silly question that I asked. So the next thing we're going to do gets a little bit more advanced. We're going to add a fade in to the very beginning. So it's going to start out quiet and slowly get louder to the bit that's me saying hello. So this part right at the beginning,
Hello, hello. I am sitting here with Michelle.
we're going to have that gently fade in. So what you want to do is make sure you've completely stopped your audio. Make sure you have the selection tool on. You should, because that's all we've been working with. Go ahead and highlight about the first few seconds of that. Doesn't have to be exact, just the first little bit of it. Then when you've gone there, across the top where you see File, Edit, View, Transport, Tracks, Generate, there's an option for Effect. Click that and you get a big old long list. What you want to look for is the option for Fade In. And when you select that, you'll see the waveform change. So if we undo that, you see it starts out louder. But if we redo the fade in, starts out quieter. So we went from
Hello, hello, I am...
loud intro. Now we'll add the fade in.
Hello, hello, I
And you
am
can see
sitting
that
with
fades
Michelle
in.
Rogers, content editor for the Record.
And the reason you might want to add a fade in is so that whatever you're playing is less jarring. So if it fades in nicely, people will get used to it rather than just be surprised by someone being loud at the very beginning of your audio clip. Now you can also add a fade out. We don't really need one on this clip, but I'll show you how to do it anyway. So if we were to highlight the last bit of audio, we can use that same effect menu, but this time click fade out. And it will just
All right, thanks for listening.